Hey friends, before we dive into this week's episode, just a heads up. Our podcast talks about suicide, sexual abuse, and other trauma, and some of what you hear may be triggering, so please listen with care. This is The Survivors, real stories, raw conversations, and the truth about what it means to keep going after the hardest things. We're so glad you're here. Let's keep surviving together.
So let me ask you a question, because
Okay.
this has been on my mind for a little while. How many women do you think die by suicide each year? Do you have any guess?
I don't have any idea. I know that the suicide rate for men is higher, but I don't know what the actual numbers are.
So just in this country, in the U.S., 6 women out of every 100,000 die by suicide every year. And women actually attempt suicide at a much higher rate than men. But the interesting thing is, men die by suicide about 4 times more often than women. So it just feels like we need to have a conversation about women and suicide. And as someone who has survived plenty of your own attempts, I didn't feel like there was anyone in the world more qualified to have this conversation than you, because you've been in that place. And you're like me. You're a woman who is a mother, who is a wife, who is working, who is running a household. And we carry a lot. And the majority of that, I think, is invisible. I know sometimes that's how I feel, even though I know that what I do in my own family is very much acknowledged by my husband, by Dave, and by my kids. But there's a lot even that isn't. And it weighs on you. Do you feel that?
Oh, 100%. The invisible emotional labor that goes on behind the scenes of running a household is just something that I don't think men have any clue about.
A lot of them don't. I mean, I think that there are a lot of stay-at-home dads out there in the world who are navigating the same day-to-day challenges that we do, who are home. But, I mean, I don't think anybody can argue the fact that more women are active caregivers than men in this world. And certainly, historically speaking, the workforce was predominantly men back in the early days. And obviously now women have entered the workforce and are definitely, I wouldn't say equal to the male workforce in many, many ways, but we're sure out there. We're out there, and we're doing not only jobs we were hired for, but we're also doing full-time jobs every day when we get home after work, after our full-time jobs. And that's a lot. And we're also managing everybody else's needs. So there's no wonder that mothers everywhere are burnt out, that mothers are frazzled and they're emotionally fried, and that they're not mentally well because of that they're depressed or feeling isolated or feeling that they can't compete with all the other moms around them who are, lining up to showcase their perfect little lives on social media. It's really hard. It's really, really hard.
Well, I mean, we're tracking everything, everybody's needs, the birthdays, the doctor's appointments, moods, meal planning, scheduling appointments. I mean, who do they talk about the primary caregiver, who's generally the primary caregiver? It's the mother. So who do the children run to when they need anything? But when I talk about the invisible labor, it's also something as simple as filling up because we use soap, foaming hand soap dispensers, refillable glass ones. This making sure those are refilled. Something as small as that, but that lives up here in our brains.
It does.
That is on our tally list. That is on our task list. Having to keep a mental checklist of almost every single thing that's in the household and where we're at. When are we going to need a new one? All the things. It lives up here and is going on in our brains all the time. And, again, this is the primary caregiver in the home, whether that's male or female. But vast majority are women.
And they're keeping track of who to send the birthday cards to and, shopping for holiday gifts, and everyone needs new shoes, and how does the fridge get filled? How does the food get cooked? How does everyone get picked up and dropped off and tucked in and bathed? And it's and it's a cycle that it feels like it's endless. And I think it puts such a heavy weight. Look, it's hard to live life, period. Hard stop. It's hard to live life. And when you're living life as a caregiver for somebody else, and in our cases, multiple somebody else's, it adds an incredible amount of stress and pressure to an already stressful and pressure-filled life. And it gets to the point where, is it any great surprise to any woman who might be listening to this conversation that we put ourselves dead last all the time? So we don't think about what we need. We certainly aren't thinking about our mental health on an active day-to-day basis, probably in the ways that we should. And as a result of that, moms everywhere, women everywhere are burning the hell out because we're not taking our own needs into consideration, and we're just overwhelmed.
Well, and here's another topic that we can talk about briefly is, you've heard of a married single woman. Have you heard that term before?
Oh, sure.
Where the mother, so where we're at in our economy or whatever else, both parents are now working. So the mother is now going out, doing her job, but then she's still expected to come home and do all the things of running a household. So she's literally never, ever stopping. And there is no relief. And coming from somebody who was a full-time mom for the majority of the last 14 years, there were bits of time, where 6 months here, 8 months there, where I did have a job. And in those times where I have been working, I am so exhausted on so many levels, and I don't feel like I can be an adequate mother because there's just not enough time in the day. And the men, they think that just going to work each day, that's their job, not realizing that there's a whole other set of responsibilities that comes home, that they need to come home to. So women are doing their full-time jobs, coming home, doing all the things, when being a full-time, being a mother is a full-time, above and beyond actually, full-time job than anything else, because there's no clocking out.
No, that's the key right there. There's no clocking out, so there's no ability to recharge. Especially when you're a young mom and you have younger kids that demand your attention all the time, and you're sleep deprived, and you haven't showered in days, and it's no wonder people's mental health are impacted. It's hard. It's really, really hard. I mean, you think a mother who maybe is caring for twins or multiple children, 2, 3 kids in a house, and you're shuttling, and you're a chauffeur, and you're a cook, and you're a personal shopper, and all of a sudden you realize you haven't showered in 2 days or 3 days. How do you think that mother, if they don't have time to shower, if they don't have time to wash their hair or tie their shoes, how are they going to get to the therapist's office? How are they going to factor that in for themselves? How are they going to factor an opportunity to catch up on lost sleep or to make sure they eat the meal? It's really, really difficult. And this is not to say that all men are unwilling to be active participants in their families. I know my own husband, Dave, we have like a division of labor. Like he does as many things around this house as I do, always has. But the fact of the matter is, in our case, for instance, when he was working, traveling back when the kids were young, and he was out of the country for a week at a time, or 3, 4 days, 5 days at a time, a couple of times a month, I was a single mom. I was a single mom with 2 young kids, and it wasn't because he didn't want to be there, and it wasn't because he wasn't pitching in when he was. It was simply because his job required him to do things that kept him away from home, and he would get off the red eye and take care of the kids, or he would, get home from, another country and be totally jet lagged and make sure the dog was walked and the laundry was done and that I got a break. But I think that's probably the exception rather than the norm in most households. I think that certainly way back in the day when our parents were young or our grandparents were young, you had mom was home and had her roles and responsibilities, and dad was at work, and there was a complete division of labor, and there was no overlap. And I know that that's changed. I know a lot of that has changed to such a large degree. But I don't think that anybody can argue the fact that still, even to this day, so much falls on the shoulders of the mom of the household that it just creates this layer of stress and overwhelm that translates to, in a lot of cases, depression and anxiety and stress that can't be resolved.
Mm-hmm. I mean, a woman could be sitting on the couch and still working mentally. And that is the kind of exhaustion that we don't talk about. Is she's trying to sit on the couch and yet she feels guilty for sitting on the couch for 5 minutes.
That's a good point.
Your brain is just what are you doing sitting down? There's so much more you could be doing right now. In the guilty part of trying to rest when you know you need to be resting, and yet what's going on in our heads when our brain and our bodies are literally fighting with each other.
Well, that's high functioning distress. Is what that is. You're functioning at such a high level, all cylinders, all the time, and women show up. Women who are like that, who are in those roles, who have those responsibilities, are sure they're getting things done, they're checking things off their list, but they're shells. They're shells, and they're depleted and they're exhausted. And I mean, why do you think high functioning that struggle gets missed so often? Because it's invisible. People don't see it. People don't acknowledge it. And I think if people don't see a situation that looks chaotic, well, what's the problem? If things don't look chaotic, doesn't mean, look, you can have the most organized household running like a well-oiled machine, and underneath all of that is a mother who is still stressed and burdened and frazzled because she has to keep it together all the time. And people, it's almost like a curse to be able to check off all your boxes and do all the things, because when you do that, it doesn't look like there's chaos. And when it doesn't, you don't have anything to point to say, hey, see that? See how overwhelmed I look? See how upside down my house is? See how I haven't even made dinner yet and it's 9:00? Like it's hard for the people who can actually keep it somewhat together enough to make it through the day. It's almost, if it doesn't look like a bomb blast, well, what's the problem?
Exactly. And this actually goes back to what we had talked about before, where you had brought up suicide, and I have survived 3 actual attempts myself. And nobody knew what was going on because I got so good at keeping my shit together. And hiding what was going on behind the scenes, because I had my life together. I had been living on my own since I was 18, supporting myself, I was in college. Nobody had any idea because I just held it all together all the time. And the same goes for mothers. And you see the mothers that are, sorry, I'm kind of bouncing all over the place. I would see my sister get all this extra support because she was a chaotic mess. And yet I was going through just the same maybe not just the same, but similar, and would receive very little to no support whatsoever. And I see this too with mothers, the ones that are just a dumpster fire. Their house is a mess. They're extremely chaotic. They receive more support and sympathy than the mothers that are literally fighting a war within themselves to keep it all together because they appear to have it all together on the outside.
Yeah, that's almost a bit of a curse, I think, in some ways. I know I felt that way. I'm the first one to acknowledge that I've always taken a lot of pride. I get this from my mom. I've taken a lot of pride in my little home and making sure that my kids always had what they needed and making sure that things kind of always had a place. And I've always functioned that way. And so when you walk in my house, it didn't look like it was upside down and on fire. And it gives the illusion, well, either you've just completely got it all together, or you certainly don't need help. And it's unfortunate because it creates the wrong impression. Like we're all out there needing help, and forget about the mothers, women in general. I think just women in relationships in general, in life in general, are tasked almost automatically with certain activities, like if maybe you don't have kids, maybe you're just in a relationship and you're the cruise director, you're creating the social calendar, you're keeping track of everybody's birthdays and holidays and special occasions, and it just seems like, I don't know from my own experience, that there's this typecasting that happens, and people don't outwardly see the impact of that on each of us when we feel like we have to handle it all on our own and we can't go to anyone for help. We can't ask for help, because if you do that, then you're admitting that you can't handle what you're taught you're supposed to always be able to handle, which is your own life and your own shit and your own kids. So there's guilt for needing help, and there's definitely guilt for resting. There's guilt for feeling resentful that you're not getting help. So it's just this kind of this twisted tension about, when to even feel like you can ask for help, or you can sit down, or you can unplug.
Yeah. I mean, somewhere along the way, women have internalized this belief that we are in charge of the emotional stability, the physical safety, not necessarily always, but, times are changing, the financial stability, just the overall stability within the home. Like, women have taken that on as like, that's their job. And that is such an incredible amount of pressure that, I think kind of was contributing to what I was feeling in a previous episode, where the pressure of all of it being on me all the time, especially now that I'm working full time. And I almost snapped. I really did.
Looking for mental health resources that actually fit who you are and where you come from? Then you need to check out the HelpHUB. It's not another generic wellness site. It's a free, inclusive online platform built for real people living real lives. People managing stress, anxiety, depression, trauma and abuse, grief or suicide loss. At the HelpHUB, you'll find the resources, tools, treatment options, and trauma-informed content you need in the moment without having to dig through endless tabs or start from scratch. It's your place to land, to take a breath, and to find exactly what you need when you need it most. Visit thehelphub.co, where the help you need is just a click away.
I don't think you're the only one. I don't think this is an isolated experience that you're feeling. I think that there are so many women out there who just feel like they have to measure up and feel like they have, there's this whole comparison culture. We talk about this. You and I have talked about this before. There's this whole comparison culture where you have to have this perfectly curated life in order to feel like you're accomplished or you're successful in some way. And that's an incredible, incredible burden to carry. Like, I don't give a shit anymore about whether or not I'm keeping up with the people around me. I mean, I'm at the point now in my late 50s where I have wasted too much of my time in my life caring about how I look, the optics of how I might look to other people. And I've never been somebody who did that a lot, but we're all human. And so we do that kind of thing from time to time. I don't do it anymore. And it is so liberating. And what it does for your mental health when you realize that you're not competing with anybody else, nobody else. It doesn't matter who's around you. It doesn't matter who lives next door to you. It doesn't matter. First of all, it doesn't matter because 9 times out of 10, what you think you see in someone else's life isn't real. That's the thing. That's the scary thing about it, that causes all these issues, that causes people to have breakdowns and be depressed and be suicidal and take their life, is because you spend so much time comparing yourself to what you think other people are. But 9 times out of 10, they're not like that. They're the same dumpster fire that maybe you are. You know, I love that expression, but it's so true, like, especially in the context of what we're talking about. It's true.
Well, and here's another thing that I was just barely thinking about is, I have, again, like you, stopped comparing myself to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, it's easier for me to do that when I'm away from my family, because that is a central core part of the toxic cycle I was raised in, is the constant comparison. But the pressure that I feel in the last several years is that I am comparing to myself, or the version of myself that I thought I would be at, say, 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Or I reach a milestone and I just keep raising the bar against myself. And I have not learned to just be, hey, look at all of that you're doing. Holy hell, you're amazing. When I hear other people talk about me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, who are you talking about? Like, I overheard a coworker explaining me to somebody else, and I was like, and I knew she was talking about me, but I was like, she's talking about me.
Well, look. It's always so much easier for any of us to do that, to give other people compliments and say the nice things about all the other people, but we never talk to ourselves the way we talk to other people. Other people.
I have a little thing that I think would be good for, all the women or whoever's listening. When was the last time that you looked yourself in the mirror and said, I appreciate you. I love you.
That's a good one.
Thank you for all you do.
Do you do that?
No, I'm gonna.
I love you. Just gave this amazing suggestion, and you don't do it, but that's okay.
I have periodically, but I don't make it a regular habit. We do have what I call a gratitude board. It's a dry erase board. It's huge, massive, out in our hallway upstairs, and we're supposed to be writing 3 things that we're grateful for each day. And since we've moved back into the house, we just got it hung a week or 2 ago. And my daughter, I'm so proud of her. She has been every day writing 3 things on there.
Good for her.
That she's grateful for. And so, I think if we just take a moment to thank ourselves and realize, holy hell, we deal with a lot. And grace is just so underestimated and undervalued. If we could just give ourselves a little bit of grace.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said a minute ago, that we do not talk to ourselves at all the way we talk to other people. We would never talk to other people the way we talk to ourselves when we go off on ourselves and start with all the negative self-talk and like you're saying, you're comparing yourself to your past self. What I've realized now at this stage of my life, because you and I are at different places in terms of, like, our kids, mine are grown and they're out of the house and living on their own. So I'm a little bit ahead of the game in that way. But one of the things that I try to be more consistent about now is recognizing that I don't want to be the same person. that I was. I do want to carry the things that I'm proud of with me and build on those things. But I'm not really as fixated anymore on like strip myself down to the studs and get it all right and have it all figured out. Like that's a bogus way to move through life is to and I think that's where so many people's problems come from. I know that in my own head, either feeling like I wasn't enough at times or feeling like I didn't have the right to slow down at times, that just has some of the most profound impacts on our mental health and wellness and contributes to suicide with women when we see our bodies start to change and we don't embrace them for what they are and what they've been and what they've done. Like in our case, birthed children or been strong enough to, hold a family on your shoulders for years. All the things that we do every day, like we only think about how we're changing in a negative way versus what is it that's good about us that we want to continue to build on, and what are we ready to cut loose?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't necessarily mean something's wrong with us. I'm just at a point now where I'm done comparing myself to anybody, even my past self, because life is fluid. And I would never expect to be the same consistently. Like we're always a work in progress. We have a sign, we got it in California many, many, many years ago at some winery, I think, in San Francisco, was this beautiful sign that says we're all a work in progress. And it's one of my favorite pieces in my house because I see it every day. It's in our dining room and I walk by it every day. And it's such a constant reminder that we are always evolving and changing, and we have to give ourselves the freedom to be able to do that. So I think that if we can all be a little less hard on ourselves, I think this does not just apply to women. I think this applies to everybody in the generalized suicide rate. I think so much of that will change. So much of that will change if we realize that we're not being dramatic by being overwhelmed or by saying that we're tired or by carrying everything that we're carrying and needing to put it down. We're just being human.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we shrink ourselves so much and we lose ourselves in all that we do. I don't know about you, but I was, I partied back in, the day, and I felt like I lost that person. And you had said something to me in a couple episodes back where maybe I don't need to go back to that person or something along, she's no longer living. That
Like
version
you're
of
not
me,
a failure if
right.
you aren't that person anymore.
Right. There's too much that's happened in the last, say, 5 years that version of me, she's been laid to rest. She doesn't exist anymore. And I need to find a way to find the new me that is learning to exist in this world with all this pressure, with all this grief, with everything. And as mothers, we lose, or even as women, we lose ourselves in what we're supposed to be rather than what we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that goes back to the constructs that we're all fed from the time we're young, that we have to go to college, that we have to get married, that we have to have the corporate job or a job. And I do think that this current generation is changing that. And I think there's a great trickle-down effect. We're all learning that there is no right path. There is no straight line. There is no formula to follow anymore. And we're getting there. We're getting there. I just wish we would get there faster.
Yeah.
I really do, because I think at the end of the day, no matter how many conversations people have, like the one we're having right now, where we're like, give yourself grace and shut down when you need to shut down, and put the load that you're carrying down for a minute. You're not weak. All of those things, it may create little ripples of change, It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take so many more kinds of these conversations in so many different spaces and places where people are admitting, I am overwhelmed. I am not perfect. I can't handle it. I need a break, and do it unapologetically. And that's the thing. I didn't do that for the majority of my early married life. I just took it on, did all the things, had a million balls in the air, and it was because I felt like I needed to. And I know now that I don't. But unfortunately, we don't learn a lot of this stuff when we're young. We learn a lot of this stuff through trial and lots of error.
Yeah. I do. I listen to, or excuse me, I follow this one gal on social media, and she's actually a licensed family therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it's just today, I think it was, and she said, I want to share with you the number one thing that I can confirm is working the most in keeping marriages going and helping to save women. And it's this term, it's kind of this new term. It's called decentralizing your husband or the man in your life.
Okay.
And that's where you stop making him the central part of it. Like, stop asking to take a shower. Stop asking him.
Who is asking to take a shower? Whoa. I mean, are we talking trad wives now, or are we?
Well, just women in general, where, especially when you have young kids, it's like, hey, can you watch the kids while I go take a shower?
Gotcha. I see what you're saying.
She had mentioned something about where you know, your husband gets up at a specific time to take a shower, and you get up even earlier to accommodate him or later to accommodate him. Start doing what works best for you. And I kind of had this situation even just in the last year. And I just told George, you know, for 23 years, I did his laundry. Especially when we first moved in together, I was so excited to be Susie homemaker. And I just immediately, he didn't ask me to start doing his laundry. I wanted to, because that's what I was trained to do. Right. That's what women do. I immediately just became Susie homemaker.
Well,
and it freaked him out, because he was like, what?
Well, I mean, let's give everybody who does not know your background and history a 10 to 20 second catch up that you were part of the FLDS, the Fundamentalist Church of Latter-day Saints polygamy cult, 3 moms, 1 dad. Warren Jeffs was your uncle. You lived in a compound where you were taking care of all of your younger siblings. Anyone who came before you, you were taking care of, and so on. You had all the same responsibilities that a mother would have at what? The age of 8? Probably, if not earlier?
Yeah, I would say probably between the ages of 10 and 12.
Okay. Yeah. So so even for you in particular, like you, Natasha, it's even more amplified because you grew up in an environment where that was a way of life. Like that
women were subservient to men.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So I just did it. And so, yeah, it's been about 6 months ago, and I just came to George and I just said, I can't do your laundry anymore. And he was a little shocked, but okay. And I just said, I'm not trying to punish you, but I can't. And believe it or not, our children, our daughter is 14 and our son is 12. They've been doing their own laundry for about 3 years now.
That's amazing. My kids did laundry when they were that age too. And, you know, everybody learns to pitch in, but what we have to do is learn as women, especially as caregivers, we have to learn to put ourselves in the equation. And you also started working around that time full time, and we're moving, and we're still doing all the mom things that you do with kids who are still in school and in sports, and you have a really full life. And good for you for saying, I'm going to take this thing off my plate. Good for you. I don't think enough people do that.
Been great. Like, his laundry basket gets full, and to know that is not on my plate. And I'll do my laundry when I run out of underwear.
Okay, fair. Just don't forget, you can flip them inside out. Isn't that
you know, and there's these different things that we can do if we can learn, and I, I get that being a single mother is a different situation, and tremendous amount of respect for the single mothers or parents out there doing this all alone. Holy hell.
I was raised by one of those remarkable human beings. I look back now as a mom, just couldn't even begin to tell you how my mother did all the things that she did. There is such a mad, crazy amount of respect that I have for my own mother and any single parent out there, because it is hard enough to do when you have support. I can't even imagine what raising young children is like when you're just on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And that contributes to the depression and the mental illness and the exhaustion and the stress and all the things we started this conversation talking about. So,
and not having the village, like everybody talks about the village, like, unfortunately, that's no longer a thing in most cases.
Not everybody has it. It is a thing, but not everybody has it.
Yeah. So when you talk about like the support that you have with, and again, this is very different for me. Some of my siblings got the village with their raising their young children, where they showed up. Example, I showed up for my sisters and helped them raise their children. Did I get that same thing? And I never, ever did it because I was expecting it. I didn't want to have children for a number of years. I did it because I loved them, and that's what we did. Did I get that reciprocated when my children were little? Absolutely not. And I see that now with some of my other siblings, my brothers. They get the village. Others do not. I don't know why it is, but I know it's a thing.
Yeah. Well, you also came from a family you have 19. You had 19 siblings.
Right.
So, and 3 different moms and different dynamics and different family hierarchy and all that. So in your case,
I've heard of it happening
different
in other families that are not polygamist.
Oh, sure. Of course it happens.
That based on family dynamics, where one sibling or, select siblings receive more support than others. And, I just want to say that if you feel like you're doing this all alone and you feel like you're Atlas holding the world on your damn shoulders, it's because you are, and you're absolutely freaking amazing. And please look at yourself in the mirror and say, thank you. I appreciate you. And I love you.
Well, I think that's a great place to start. I think that we should all be paying attention to those invisible responsibilities that we carry. And we name them. We just name them and acknowledge them and ask for support. Do that. There is nothing wrong with that. We are entitled to that. And maybe replace a little bit of the guilt that we all have with, like, what do I need? Instead of feeling guilty, like, what do I need to resolve some of the feelings or being overwhelmed? And check in with the women in your life. Check in to make sure that they're being honest with you and themselves, because that's where it starts. That's where the root of all of our mental wellness starts. It's with how honest are we being with ourselves and with the people around us. And I think conversations like this are where it starts.
I agree.
All right, let's come back and talk again, like maybe exactly 1 week from today.
Sounds good.
Okay. Bye, honey.
Bye. Love you.
Love you too.
Thanks so much for listening and for being part of the Survivors community. No matter where you are in your story, you're not alone, and you're definitely not broken. Healing takes time, and it looks different for everyone. The fact that you're still here and still trying means you're already doing the hard work. If something in today's conversation resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it too. That's how we keep these conversations going and remind each other that there's always hope.
And if you or someone you know is struggling, please remember, help is always out there. You can call or text 988 anytime to reach a trained crisis counselor like me. And for more mental health resources, tools, treatment options, and content to support your mental health, visit thehelphub.co. We're so grateful you're part of the Survivors family, and we'll be back next week with another honest conversation about life after the hardest things. Until then, take care of yourself and your people. and keep surviving.